That's not my lane. I'm not going to give you legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered. I'll say that.
It seems like just about every single day, there's a moment provided to us, graciously provided to us by Republicans, that we would be able to ask, what if Joe Biden had said this or done this? What if a Democrat, a leader in leadership, had done or said this? And the answer is always, well, Fox News wouldn't have been able to shut up about it for months. Republicans would have started hearings to investigate this. And Mike Johnson gave us one of these moments yesterday after Donald Trump authorized the arrest of Gavin Newsom, goading Tom Homan to do so, saying, I think it would be great, he said, if Tom Homan and ICE arrested the democratically elected governor of the state of California. The president of the United States said that. And it was such an alarming thing that this is a question that, of course, the media, press, the constitutionally protected free press, they're going to be asking people in leadership like Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, second in line to the presidency. If, God forbid, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump were to die in some kind of a fiery plane crash, it would be Mike Johnson, President of the United States. Shudder the thought. We need to protect Donald Trump and J.D. Vance at all costs. Well, he was asked about this, Mike Johnson, about Donald Trump encouraging, authorizing the arrest of a seated governor. By the way, when Donald Trump was asked, well, what crime has he committed? You know, you don't just get to arrest people unless they've committed a crime. The crime, Donald Trump said, if you remember from yesterday, was running for governor and doing a bad job. Apparently, that's now a crime. Mike Johnson was asked about this, and of course he says, "Well, that's not in my lane. I don't know." But then he invokes violent imagery about what treatment should be brought upon Gavin Newsom. Watch this.
The president said, possibly in jest, that if he were Tom Homan, he would arrest Gavin Newsom. Do you believe that Newsom should face consequences in a legal way?
That's not my lane. I'm not going to give you legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered. I'll say that. I mean, look, he's standing in the way of the administration and the carrying out of federal law. Right? He is applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He is trying to. He's a participant, an accomplice in our federal law enforcement agents being not just disrespected but assaulted. This is a serious problem, and the governor is now filing a lawsuit against the president. What a joke. Do your job, man. That's what I tell Gavin Newsom. Do your job. Stop working on your rebranding and be a governor. Stand up for the rule of law. He's not doing that. So I don't know what the ultimate measure will be there, but I know that in the interim time, the president of the United States is showing real leadership, and we're not going to allow L.A. to burn. We've seen this movie before, right? This thing gets out of hand real quickly, especially in a big city like that. And if local and state officials are unwilling or unable to do their job, the president of the United States will do his, and we support that fully.
He ought to be tarred and feathered. Also, it doesn't take a legal scholar, it doesn't take a constitutional expert to understand that a democratically elected governor who has committed no crime, there's no fraud allegations, there's no ethics allegations, there's no criminal allegations against him, that I'm not gonna give you a legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested. You don't need to give a legal analysis to say Gavin Newsom has committed no crime, therefore there should be no arrest. The reason he won't say it is because he is petrified, like a little boy, of Donald Trump. Part of it. The other part is that he is in lockstep with fascism, Christo-fascism, white Christian nationalism. But to then continue and say that Gavin Newsom should be tarred and feathered, he should be assaulted, because no one volunteers for tar and feathering. You need to grab hold of someone, seize someone against their will, detain them, and then assault them with tar and feathers. Now, back to the original thesis that I opened the video with. What if Nancy Pelosi had said, this particular violent act should be visited upon Greg Abbott. They should knock over Greg Abbott's wheelchair, drag him through the streets, tar him, and then throw feathers on him to stick to the tar and assault. Republicans would never shut their fucking mouths about that having been said. The good news is Nancy Pelosi has never and would never say anything like that. But the media largely is going to give this a pass. When Donald Trump acts absolutely unhinged and demented in a serious cognitive situation, the media is quiet. But when Joe Biden stutters and can't find his thoughts during a debate, Jake Tapper swiftly runs to his computer and starts writing a book. The media is complicit in missing the moment. There's a few they're going to be asking the questions, but the problem is largely, broadly, they're not going to follow this story. So the Republicans get a pass, which puts a heavy burden on people in independent media. Not just me. There's many people who do what I do. But it puts a burden on us to actually have to ask these questions. Hopefully to fire up an audience enough to demand answers from their elected leaders. If you don't have the Capitol switchboard memorized like I do, you need to commit it to memory. It's 202-224-3121. If you live in Mike Johnson's district, you have an obligation. I'm not saying, I encourage you to do it. You should already be doing this. 202-224-3121 should be programmed into your phone. You call, you give them your zip code or your congressional district, who your member is. They will connect you, and you tell that office how you feel. Hypocrisy is just another form of lying. Hypocrisy is itself deception. They're holding conflicting views on so many things. They don't want political violence unless it's against someone else. The golden rule, the do unto others like you'd have them do unto you, doesn't apply for Republicans. Any Christian ethos or philosophies that were taught by their alleged self-proclaimed deity, Jesus, they don't believe anymore. They don't follow anymore. That's too woke for them. That's too weak for them. That's not manly enough for them. That's not masculine enough for them. As they beg to be subjugated by Donald Trump, to be tread upon by Donald Trump. Weakness. Weakness before surrender to one of the weakest presidents we've ever had. One of the most morally and ethically and physically weak individuals who's ever held the office of president. And we've had some weaklings in office. Disgusting. The Republican Party should be ashamed. If they were capable of shame, they would be ashamed of themselves. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. You can comment below. You can also call, leave me a fewer. You can leave me one, please, not a series of voicemails. One fewer than 3-minute voicemail per day. I'm going to have to start blocking people who are calling me 10 times a day. 714-576-4054 as I whine and complain. 714-576-4054. Or you can email me daily@dollemore.com. If you want to help support this work, if you want to help me grow this channel, please consider $2 a month, become a channel member. Click that join button below the video, wherever it may be. And you can also go over to my Patreon page, which is even better because they take way less money than YouTube does. YouTube always has their hand in there. Patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I love and appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time in a studio that is actually functioning without a hotel table, with better lights. It's going to be great. Be genuine. Take care of one another.